I am so glad we are returning again to Autism Adventures Abroad. Alex Stratikis. Ooh, what a name to say. How do I say that, Alex?
Stratikis.
That's so lovely. So, you're going to transport me back to part of my childhood today. Your latest blog that you've shown me is about Firenze, Florence, the magical city. Beautiful marble statues that, if you can touch them, feel so wonderful under your fingers, and then there's the form of them. I'm not just thinking of David, I'm thinking of all the other parts that make up the arts of Florence. Is that something that makes sense to you?
Yeah, definitely. I was lucky enough to spend about a month there, so I got to see lots of parts of it,
So you're
past like the
living there,
usual
right?
tourist ones. Yeah, I was with a friend,
Yeah.
or my friend gave me their apartment, sorry.
Oh, wow.
Well, they were gone over summer, which was really nice. And then afterwards, one of my other friends who I met originally from Chicago, he was there, so we ended up sharing an apartment together.
So you had every opportunity to go down every avenue and look at Florence from an autistic traveller's point of view.
Yeah, it was a pretty, I guess, inspirational place to be around. I did do a lot of writing when I was there. I was in a very motivated state during the month I was there. And yeah, I did do a lot of traveling and exploring around the city and also a bit further outside.
So it's travel as inspiration for art.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to do. It in a relatively small space. There's a lot of different options for people.
Compact city.
Exactly.
What's your advice for an autistic traveller? Say I just come on an EasyJet flight
hmm
and that's been uncomfortable because
hmm
it will be.
Yeah.
Well, maybe there's an alternative. What about travelling to Firenze by a different route?
Well, I know a lot of people, especially backpackers, have done Eurorail, like the Interrail.
We have Eurail for people from the United States. There are tickets
hmm
that you can buy that you can have a period of time and you can travel certain number of days depending on how which ticket you buy within that time. And
hmm
in Interrail, if you're in part of the UK or Europe, you can buy an Interrail ticket which gives you a similar thing, either unlimited travel for a month or certain amounts of days within a month. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So I think if train is preferable over flying, I think it's also manageable to do that even from the UK. You know, they've got the connecting lines between London and France. So, and I know a few people that have done it.
I have done it, but a
Yeah.
long time ago. I had half price rail fare within the UK using my Interrail. I think I hitchhiked across the actual sea part, but ferries are often on cheap deals, and I think you get a discount with an Interrail ticket as well on a ferry.
Yeah, I'm sure you.
You've got the tunnel if you want to avoid anything to do with ships, and then on the other side there's these fast trains that take you so far. That is an option, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think Europe's probably one of the best connected areas that I've been to in terms of trains.
Overland travel by train to Florence. That's a magical idea already in my head. Just the idea of all the timetables sounds great to me as an autistic person. What should I do when I get there?
Well, for me, I mean, in the month I was there, I think I definitely made the most of it. I think I went to about 30 different museums and art galleries.
30.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I guess I'm going to talk about today is initiative, I guess, they've got in Italy right now, where any disabled visitors can get free entry into all government-owned institutions, and also that comes with like things like line skip as well, you know. When I went to see David, the I mean, it's not so sensory friendly there, you know. but yeah, every day, the line is crazy. This was during summertime, which is like, I guess, the peak tourist season. But, looking online, I did find some information regarding this, and then I messaged them just to be absolutely sure, the team who work in the offices, I guess. There was a contact email, and they were
Attention to
like,
details, the autistic way.
yeah, I have to do this, or I I don't like to assume these things, so I always like to be absolutely sure before I do something. So yeah, I messaged them and they got back to me fairly quickly, and they were like, yeah, if you come, you get to just show your, what's the word? I think it's like
Any kind of
you know,
proof.
yeah, exactly, to the staff, and they can give you the line skip along with that. So it was great. I basically skipped like 2 hours of lining up to see David. I mean, once you're inside, it's the same as anyone else. So, it is very crowded. So I guess that's one thing to take into consideration, regardless of whether you're getting free entry or the
But
line skip.
it's a minimisation, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's an accommodation. We know it's going to be difficult being around a lot of people. We know it's going to be difficult being in a line to some degree, but at least part of it gets taken out so we can cope. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. I think it was great to be able to, do and see all these things. I think I worked it out, and then I saved almost like 200 euros from 30 different museums. And this was like all the big ones as well. I think most of them in Florence are government owned. They are, I guess, but yep, exactly. So that was great.
That's a straight on excellent tip. So even if you're just going for a day, a weekend, or a trip from somewhere else, if you're somewhere else in Italy and it's a day trip,
Hmm.
have something that will be accepted as a disability proof, and then you can get a little bit more consideration with the lines and a free entry every now and again.
Hmm. Yeah, it's definitely important to bring it. I will say though that, in some cases I just had to tell people. Sometimes I was just doing it on Google Translate on the, worried about maybe if they didn't really understand what I was saying. But yeah, sometimes they just looked at it and were like, go ahead. So, but it's definitely better to bring it, you maybe get someone who does want to be more stringent with the rules. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My experience of Italy is that they're not great with rules. They're not. They're quite happy to
It's
to bend things around
it's a
and
Mediterranean thing.
make a few
Yeah.
adjustments for. They go by the spirit of things instead of by the letter of things.
Yeah.
That's a lovely thing about Italy.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite places.
Yeah. Another way of avoiding those kind of lines, I suppose, is the autistic organisation bit, isn't it? It's like if you could be arranging yourself to be there an hour before it closes or early before it starts, then a lot of the sensory problems of queuing up and being around and being with other people we could avoid. We can plan that out, can't we?
Yeah, definitely. I think all the information you need is on like the websites, even like the Florence. I think the Florence tourism website also has a lot of information regarding this. I'm sure that's where I got most of my information from. In terms of opening times, whether or not they did offer the free entrance. So yeah, it's definitely I'll always do my research in terms of this sort of stuff, before I go somewhere. So I think if you've got the time and energy to do that, then it's definitely going to pay off in terms of giving you a more rounded trip and experience overall.
Well, you haven't said this yet, but my way of researching would be to cheat and go to directly to Autism Adventures Abroad and have a look at what you said.
Well, I haven't published the Florence one yet. That's been sitting there for a while, but it will eventually go up. Since doing the one in Florence, I have found out about more in Europe, that I haven't actually done or engaged with yet.
So there's more adventures to come. What?
You know, uh, so the Florence one, that's in Tuscany, but I think from what I can gather online that this is like on a national level in Italy, like no matter where you go, if it's any government-owned institution, gallery, museum, then it's going to offer free entrance to any disabled visitors. So, and I mean, Italy is probably one of the, I mean, speaking from my point of view, one of the best countries to go to for tourism in terms of, there's, no matter where you go, there's always something, for someone, every city you go to has got some touristic element and some beautiful piece of history or something like that. Amazing art galleries. But, looking outside of Italy as well, there's also, so in France, I don't think it's on a national level, but I know, for example, Paris, and that's somewhere I haven't been yet, but I'm hoping to soon. Paris offers pretty much the same initiative. So every government-owned building as well, tourism side in Paris offers free entrance and line skip to disabled visitors. So you could go to the Louvre and you don't have to line up, you don't have to pay with your pass. The only exception I could find was the Eiffel Tower, but that I think you get a massively reduced entrance. I'm sure it's only like something like €8. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, it's reduced from the normal price and also comes with the line skip.
So, in some ways, the acceptance of autism as a disability is giving us that little bit more opportunity in Europe because they make it possible. They make accessibility possible in a way we might not expect with our own experience here in the UK, where things don't seem to be really geared for autism and autistic people.
Yeah, when I tried to look online to find the reasons behind why they implemented these initiatives, these ideas, I couldn't really find any information. But I think talking like from my perception, I think the main reason they maybe did this was to encourage more disabled travelers to engage in tourism sites and these.
So they're actually seeing it as a not just a pat on the back and say, "Oh, let's try and enable." They're actually saying these people are travelling, they have money, and they're our customers.
Yeah, I have read some statistics before as well regarding autistic travel specifically, and it's that most, autistic people do avoid travel because of concerns or worries or anxiety regarding, accessibility, inclusivity in a lot of places. And, it still has a long way to go overall. But, I think definitely things like this are steps in the right direction, in my opinion.
And Firenze, which are the places that you have been to 40 different places. So give me and you can take your time over this. give me, give me some idea of some of the must sees. The Uffizi Gallery, good or not?
Yeah, of course. You could spend all day there. I think my feet got tired eventually. I like to really take my time in these places, and I do try and read every little annotation that comes with every piece, but eventually I do get a bit overstimulated, I guess. So, yeah.
So if I'm going to go to the Uffizi, I need to take a whole day and do it slowly. Is that right?
hmm Exactly. I think with most of the attractions in Florence, yeah, I would say most of them are like, I would say no more than two a day. I think even if you're doing two or more, then it's probably overdoing it. It depends how you're feeling at that time. But yeah, for me, that's like,
That's too much. Two in one day feels too much to me. I think one.
that's definitely, yeah, exactly. I like to, I do like to take my time with these places. And most of them are enormous and contain a lot of information, a lot of things to see and read. And yeah, I think definitely take your time.
I think just being in some of the rooms sometime. No?
Yeah, I love history, and it's one of the best cities I've been for history. Everywhere is like, there's something around every corner. It's one of those kind of places. You don't have to look far to find a new museum, a new area, a new street that you haven't been to.
You walk out of a little supermarket with some bread and olives, and in front of you is a piece of artwork on the street that you feel like should be in a gallery.
Yeah, it's one of those kind of places, everywhere you go, it's crazy, you could go to, like you said, like a supermarket, and there could be like a marble staircase from like hundreds of years ago. It's one of those kind of places, you know. They've got a lot of their historical past still sort of integrated within the, I don't know, the normal city as well, outside of the museum.
So I don't even have to go in the museum.
If you know where to look, then there is a lot of cool hidden spots.
Just walk up and down. Walk up and down the streets. Keep away from people. Keep out of what, and you're going to see amazing things anyway.
Yep. Yeah. That, I mean, like you said, you know, it is a busy city, and I went during I think the peak season, but you know, I think from what I've heard, if you can go in like winter, spring, autumn even, it's a lot quieter.
So the peak season, that's the June, July, August, is it? Or is it earlier than that?
No, I think it would fall under those months.
They're also hot, aren't they?
Yeah, but I mean, I think this is a bit more unusual in my part. Most people I know have heat insensitivity. I'm the exact opposite. I suffer from like cold insensitivity, so I thrive in the heat.
I think overall it's difficult to generalise for all autistic people, but it's definitely something to look into. Winter in Florence can be colder than you expect, and summer in Florence can be warmer than you expect. The autumn and the spring, they have their own light and charm. For me, potentially more interesting than the height of summer.
Yeah, definitely. You're gonna get a more, I think during spring and autumn, the weather is gonna be more temperate.
What about the food? The simple food.
Oh,
Do we have to? Do we have to go to McDonald's? What can we do?
I think I'd probably be offended if anyone went to McDonald's. No, no. I mean, no. It depends what you like. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, but a lot of autistic people would actually go to McDonald's because they know what they're going to get.
Yeah, it's safe food for sure. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, I think pizza is a safe food for a lot of people as well.
It is.
For me at least. I just try not to eat too much of it. But you know, like it's one of those cities as well, you know, like I think depending on where you go, it can be either very expensive or it could be very cheap. You know, there is obviously the tourist places, but there's a lot of holes in the wall that locals go to as well.
Holes in the wall.
You know, very inconspicuous. But again, when I go to a new place, I always search sometimes for hours on end. You know, like places that I might want to eat at, and sort of group it by area and price and that sort of thing. So
I'm still stuck on the idea of hole in the wall here because when you said hole in the wall, I said cash machine as a joke, but well, you're meaning something different, aren't you?
yeah, yeah, just like, you know, a kind of inconspicuous place that you wouldn't really notice.
Literally passing food through the wall, like a kiosk.
No, no, more like it's just like a small little. Yeah, a lot of them are pretty small. You know, you wouldn't really think twice walking past them unless you kind of know what you're looking for. Those kind of places, you know, a lot of them are just small. Yeah, like small family run places. Sometimes they only have like 5, 10, maybe seats, you know.
And if people don't feel like being in such a small, intimate space, they're a bit shy of that because it's early on in their travelling. These places generally will give you something you can point at, wrap it up in a piece of paper, and let you take it away. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I usually do. I like to eat in parks and stuff as well. Yeah, yeah, pizza, calzone, pasta. I love pistachio as well, and they have a lot of pistachio things there. So I think almost every day I was eating something pistachio.
So from the autistic point of view, you don't have to feel. You need as many breaks as you can where you can get away from other people and do your own thing. And what you're saying is it's pretty easy to grab a bit of food and go and eat it outside in a park and just get out from the hustle for a bit and then recharge your batteries. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's in Italy, in the Mediterranean overall. I think it's got a very big, you know, cafe, coffee culture. So that sort of thing, you know, there's always people just having a little drink.
And picnicking in the park and sitting on stairs eating something. Yeah.
Yeah, that sort of thing. So
Okay.
yeah, it's very normal.
I remember it feeling quite a safe place
Yeah, I when I was there, I didn't have any safety concerns. I've been to Rome before. That was, I think, 13, 14 years ago now. But, at the time, I think that was a lot more, depending on where you go, could be a lot more risky, mainly in terms of pickpocketing. Yeah. Do your research before you go there. Find out, if there is areas to avoid or things to know beforehand. But yeah, I didn't experience anything when I was there.
And it's the usual thing, don't carry too much around that you'd be afraid of losing,
Exactly.
just in case you accidentally put it down somewhere and walk away. Right, so we've been to the Uffizi. I've done that. I've made sure that I had a water bottle or something. Can I carry that around with me? Can I carry a few things that make me feel okay? Can I have headphones on? Can I, you know, do everything to make myself feel comfortable while I'm going around the Uffizi?
Most places let you bring in a backpack. I think there was maybe some that wanted you to store it if it was over a certain size, but I can't remember where exactly. Again, I think look on the website of anywhere you want to go because I think all that information is contained. I don't think anywhere I went there was any unpleasant surprises.
But people are carrying around things like rosemary beads, so fidget spinners won't be a problem. People wear headphones and stuff, don't they?
Yeah, I think for the ones that did want you to store the backpack, it was, like the backpack itself. It would if it was over a certain size. I think if there was anything in that you wanted to take out, then it was okay as well. So
So you can do everything you need from an autistic point of view to be in your own world, right in the middle of a gallery, and expose yourself to this amazing sensory experience of the art.
hmm
Wow, that's lovely, isn't it?
yeah, it was like I said, it provided a lot of inspiration for writing, so that was something I was grateful for. How I did most of my days was, I would wake up, I would make breakfast. You know, because I had the apartment, I was having breakfast and dinner in most of the time. There was a supermarket not so far, and just well, so actually, yeah. So my friend's apartment and the place I stayed with my other friend, they weren't in the center. It was probably about a 30-minute walk to the center, which was it was nice in a way. I wasn't in amongst all the hustle and bustle constantly. Gave me some exercise as well. I was just walking there back and forward every day.
Would you recommend that? Would you recommend somebody getting a hostel or a bed and breakfast hotel, whatever, campsite even, just outside the centre?
It depends on how you feel. If you don't want to be in amongst that constantly, then it's better. I was just in a residential area and it was pretty quiet, but it's within walking distance and there's also buses and trains as well. So it really depends on how you feel about being in a city atmosphere constantly. For me, I don't mind it so much. It just happened to be where the apartment was, so that's what I went with.
You had your own oasis anyway, I suppose. Whereas somebody, if they're in a hostel, then maybe they're not getting a respite from the hustle and bustle if the hostel's right in the centre. So maybe they would be better off if they were slightly outside.
Yeah, usually I do hostels. That's how I travel, in terms of saving money and meeting people. I think
Meeting
it's
people. That's the only way you can meet
yeah.
people, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, most of the people I've met through my travels have been in hostels and I've met some great people and people I've kept in touch with over years now. And I think, yeah, I mean, generally, I think the backpacking community is pretty open-minded overall. And I think it's, it's when you're meeting so many different people from different cultures and stuff, I think in a way, I think the expectation is lower, in terms of what they expect from you. There's like differences to be expected when you're in amongst so many different cultures and stuff. So I think it's easier to drop my usual mask, when I'm not traveling. And sometimes I wouldn't say the mask removes altogether, but sometimes it's a different one. Sometimes it is lowered, sometimes I don't know. But yeah, I feel like it's easier to be myself.
Yeah. And that is because you're in a hostel and everyone else is travelling for a reason and has their own things about them, I suppose.
And travel itself, I think it's a good topic of conversation. And, I think everyone you meet in a hostel is obviously interested in traveling. So I think you can have a lot of meaningful conversations without a lot of fluff in between, about their travel experiences and yours, and, yeah.
So even if you're in Florence, even the small talk is going to be something that's useful to you because it's about how I got to a place or what I saw in Florence. So that makes life a more comfortable experience then.
Yeah, I think, when you are meeting other travelers, there's a lot you can learn from them as well. And they can learn from you in terms of their own travel experiences, And there is a lot I've learned. There's some tips, some organizations, some great ideas, that I've learned from other travelers that I wouldn't have known otherwise. And same thing, I've given information to other people, based on what I've learned as well. So I think it's a kind of exchange of knowledge in a way.
An exchange of knowledge becomes an exchange of experiences. Exchange of experiences becomes an exchange of culture and identity, and friendships create, even if they're just temporary ones. And Florence is the place to do that.
Definitely. One of my favorite cities.
One of your favourite cities so far?
Yep. So far.
Because, as we know, with Autism Adventures, the adventure continues.
Yep, exactly. It's I do have a, to use the term bucket list, yeah, I do have a very large bucket list. I never growing. Only a travel bucket list, just for destinations.
Accessible Italy, and why Florence should be on every autistic traveller's bucket list. That's the name of your blog piece coming up. I'm gonna give some spoilers. Now, you said earlier in the conversation that you saved a whopping €160 because of all the attractions that you visited, giving you a discount for disability. So that's definitely important. Almost all attractions are completely free for anyone who's disabled, and also for their companion and carer. You're going to remind people in the blog about what they need to take, and you're going to remind people about the enormous value that Google Translate is. Do you want to go into Google Translate a bit and explain that a bit for people?
When you're in a country that you don't speak the language, in terms of, this is kind of like, I think I mentioned it earlier, when I was like approaching the ticket office or whatever, I would always have loaded into my phone, saved, like a screenshot of what I wanted to say, like it says on the website that you offer free entrance for anyone with a disability pass.
So you just write that in English, and then Google Translate puts that up in some kind of Italian, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. So, in Italy, I think sometimes, you do get people that don't speak English. I mean, depending on where you go, of course. But because this was an important topic, and, you don't really want to, one thing I'm not so keen on is, making myself like the center of attention in a big, huge line, I want to be inconspicuous, I just want to get in, show them the pass and get in there quickly. And I think everyone I did was very good at that. That's one thing I will say as well about all the people in the ticket office in Florence. They were very good at being inconspicuous about this process, But yeah, I would just load up that on my phone, show them it, and yeah, sometimes it would just be like, can you show me? Other times it would just be like, going through, and then that was it, yeah.
Wow. So just using Google Translate, it's just on everyone's phone.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of broke over that barrier and made the person help you in a way that was accepting and gentle, took out the stress.
Yep.
And it's just on everyone's phone.
Yeah, because I mean, I didn't really want to have to vocalize that necessarily, like I'm disabled. Can you give me a free pass kind of thing,
Yeah, because everyone around you is looking for your wheelchair, and they're not necessarily available of hidden disability, are they?
Yeah, so yeah, I think that's what worked for me, and I think if people want to try that, then yeah, I would recommend giving it a go.
Or in your blog, you're going to remind people that all the destinations you visited were self-guided. What does that mean?
So it basically means, you're kind of have free reign once you're inside. There's not a guide to take you and be like, explain stuff.
Because that's it. Oh,
Um,
okay, got it.
hmm
What are the problems with that then?
I guess kind of that you're doing all the hard work yourself, I guess. There's not anyone to explain anything to you. You just have to read the descriptions and take what you can from it. There's no one to ask questions to
Do they have apps
necessarily.
on the phones or cue cards,
Yeah.
cue things that you can use?
hmm Yeah, no, I think a lot of them now have QR codes, and I think if you want added information, you can just scan the QR code onto your phone and it gives you, I think, additional information. And I'm sure there is, in a lot of them, there is people around that you can ask, but during summer season, it's busy. There's probably a lot of people trying to ask questions at the same time. And I think, again, don't take my word for this, but I'm pretty sure some of the places as well also offered, guided tours at certain times of the day. But I think, those were limited numbers, and sometimes I think maybe you do have to pay for them. I'm not really sure because I never did that. I just always went on self-guided.
So there's two things that you've said that require the use of a mobile phone. It sounds to me as though it would be a good idea to leave your best mobile phone at home and take an additional cheap mobile phone, something you buy for a tenner off eBay, and have that as a kind of Google device and a QR code device that if you lose it, you lose it, but it's a very useful thing to have around. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm always concerned about this kind of stuff. One thing another autistic friend does now, I think it's a great idea, unless you have like general security concerns about, like being in a dangerous area and potentially getting robbed. But if that's not your concern and you're just worried about losing it or being pickpocketed, whatever, then my friend has one of those, I forget what you call it, but it's like a sort of necklace and you put your phone on this necklace. You're never gonna lose it, yeah. And no one can just like take it out your pocket as well. It's like around your neck, so mm-hmm.
But a mobile phone is a very useful thing, whether it
Mm-hmm.
be a cheap throwaway one that you can take, or whether it be a really well looked after one that
Mm-hmm.
you depend on in everyday life.
Yep, definitely.
Oh wow! Looking through your blog, people need to read your blog because it takes you there. And then on the blog, you no doubt you're going to have little links and things. So if they want to go to the Basilica di Santa Maria Novella, for instance, there'll be a little piece, and there's intricate details on what are the best ways of seeing things and where to go. It's all great.
I tried to put in all the information I thought people would find useful, so hopefully it is.
I'll give people an example.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to read a tiny bit from your as yet unpublished blog. Okay, and it's about a place I don't remember. The Pitti Palace. I decided to make a trip over to the Pitti Palace, having already visited its gardens the previous day. This is another huge site. The main core of the building dates to 1458, and it was originally a town residence of Lucia Pitti, who was well known as a zealous Florentine banker. Eventually acquired by the Medici family around 1550, the palace was subsequently selected as the new Grand Ducal residence, and it eventually became known as the new symbol of the Medici's power over the Tuscan region, then its own republic within the world order. I won't spoil by reading every part of your art there, but you can see how enthusiastically you write about your experiences, and I hope people will, go to your blog and find it.
Yeah, I think that was one of the favorite places I went to, and the gardens as well. They were incredible.
Yeah. Gardens are something that are lovely for us autistic people. And places like Florence really, they have a real pride in there always being something of sound and smells and sights that you can take in. It it's a lovely thing to be able to visit the formalized gardens, and and even the tiny little bits of weeded patches by the sides of roads. It's a lovely city for that, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot of gardens all over the city. And I kind of, when I go to a place, sometimes I make a point of visiting green spaces. I think it is relaxing.
Is
Yeah.
that part of your advice for autistic people to kind of make sure that you've got respite in green spaces?
Yeah, I mean, like when I go somewhere again with the research aspect, I always save places to the map. If you saw my maps, you'd probably be shocked because it's just a lot of pinpoints all over the place. But it's I color code them and stuff. And yeah, I save a lot of gardens and parks and into the maps, so I just know where they are. And if I do need to, get away from it all, so to speak, then when I'm outside, then I have somewhere to go.
So this is Google Maps on a mobile phone again, yeah? Okay, so most people will not want to use their data from home and that kind of thing, and they might not want to go through the hassle of putting in a second SIM into their phone. But Google allows you, before you leave home and whenever you've got Wi-Fi, to download a map area so you can use it online even without having access to the internet.
Exactly, yeah. That's one thing I do a lot when I go places. Because that is, I've been in that situation before where you're somewhere and you don't have the data and the map's not loading, and it's a pretty frustrating situation to be in. So yeah, I've learned to do that every time I go somewhere where I won't have data now.
Okay, so you get the hotspots sometimes. Do you get them on public transport? Do you get them on trams and buses in Firenze?
I don't think so. Not on public transport. I think because it's in Europe, though, I think a lot of SIM card providers in the UK specifically will still offer some sort of data plan, either included or reduced. So again, that's something to look into depending on your provider. Because I think mine's did have Italy included. I'm sure I had a UK SIM at the time, and
So as long as you don't overgo and use it for watching every YouTube video there is, you can probably use your existing SIM and your existing plan if it's a short trip and you just want to use it for things like Google Maps and a little bit of web browsing. Yeah.
if you have a UK SIM, yeah. If you have a US one, for example, then I don't think that's gonna work. And if you have a European one, then I think they're all connected somehow. So again, I'm not sure, but yeah.
So for US listeners, it might be a good idea to, if you are traveling to Europe anyway, to pick up a cheap second-hand phone and use it just as a European phone and pick up a European SIM card in a European country. You can get them very cheaply in little mobile phone shops in all of the major cities in Europe. You usually go for where there's an immigrant population because they specialize in making connectivity available. You can also do it a little bit more expensively when you arrive at the airports and such like.
So being in Tuscany, I think, and with the, connectivity in terms of transport, if you if you do find yourself in Florence, I think, and you do want to explore different places, I think that's an option as well. I didn't get the chance to do it, but, Pisa is not so far away. I think it's only like an hour away. So,
It's a short drive
mhm.
down the motorway.
Yeah, I think there's trains and buses.
There's long distance coaches between Firenze and
Yeah.
Pizza. Sorry, Pizza.
You can get pizza and pizza though, so it's all good. One trip I did do though was I went to Rimini. Yes, yeah, yeah. I wanted to go to San Marino. Rimini is the easiest way to get to San Marino. There's a bus that goes directly there, and it was interesting. It's like I think the fourth or fifth smallest country in the world.
So for those ticking off all the countries, it's an easy one.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's less about ticking off countries, but I did want to do it while I was close by. It was intriguing, I guess. I wanted to see it for myself. And Rimini looked beautiful as well. That was one place I really enjoyed. I was only there, I think, 2 days, but it's a very small city. You can, I think, easily do most of the attractions within a day or two. But yeah, I took the bus to San Marino from there.
Is it's posh, or is it for everyone?
Mm, I think, like most Italian places that I've been to, I think there's very high-end stuff and then more, I don't know the word, just yeah, for everyone.
So Italy generally is a place that you can travel on a budget or you can travel at the highest end.
Yeah, for sure. There's always going to be both ends and then everything in between.
And it's accessible to autistic people despite our sometimes difficulties with things like proximity to other people. There's places to get away. There are familiar things, but you can also challenge yourself with new things.
Yeah, for sure. I think, the important thing I would say was, when I go to a new place, I usually only book 1 or 2 nights maximum. This can be more difficult in the peak season, but I think a lot of people will generally avoid the peak season for reasons of, crowdedness and stuff. But I usually only book 1 or 2 nights when I go somewhere new for the simple reason, that it is somewhere new. I don't know how I'm going to feel about it. I don't know if I'll even like where I'm staying, if I'll like the people there. So, it kind of gives me some reassurance that, I can just pack up and go somewhere else. Yes, exactly.
You can escape it if it just doesn't turn out to be for you. And also, that if it's not going great, it's only a short period of time that will fit.
Yeah, and that's, one of the things I made a point of in the past in my blogs and online is, like it's important to do your research, but, you know, generally speaking, I think a lot of autistic people, including myself, love to plan, they love routine, structure, it's important to me and a lot of other people in the community. But when it comes to travel, I think you really need to throw that out of the window. I think planning when you're traveling as opposed to research, that they're two different things. I think, planning, making a lot of routines and structuring your day in terms of, oh, I'm going to go here at this time, blah, blah, blah. I think it gives you a lot of room to fail and slip up, because I think travel can be very unpredictable. And that's something you really need to take into consideration. And through being more spontaneous with my travels and, doing, like one or only planning for that day or the day ahead, it really gives me a lot more options and freedom and leeway to change plans. And if things don't go right, I don't have to be like, oh, like really stress about it. And I can just move on and do something else, go somewhere else. That's probably one of the best travel tips I can give anyone from my own experience.
That's a lovely one. One of the other things you're doing here is you're allowing us to experience the idea of travel just by listening to you and then just by researching around the things that are on your blog. And you're allowing us to go on a virtual travel ourselves. Some of us might never visit Florence, but we will visit Florence because we will plan it and we will look up some of the things on the website and we will imagine ourselves in some of these places. And that will be enough for us. And it might take a while before somebody decides that one of the places that you take us to in your imagination with your planning and your experiences becomes somewhere that people do travel to and do make it that time that they travel. So it's a lot more complex what you're doing here for us on Autistic Radio than just giving us tips about one place. It's a bigger thing that you're doing here.
Yeah, I think, in terms of accessible travel, I think it's a complex topic. So there's a lot still to be explored and talked about. And there's still a long way to go in terms of, improving it and standardizing it to make it more inclusive for, everyone, not just autistic people. So, yeah.
Well, for us here on Autistic Radio, you're the reporter in the wild. You're the guy who goes out there, does the travel, experiences it, and comes back and say, you survived it, it's possible, and we can follow you when we're ready.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I can only ever speak from my own perspective and, you know, like things that work for me. I think that's an important point to recognize. You know, some people who are autistic and travel won't have the same experiences as me and the same points of view. But, you know, if my advice or tips can be useful to even just one person, then that's something I would be happy about.
That's exactly what we talk about here. If anything we say in any of our programs on Autistic Radio makes a really good situation for one person on one occasion, then we're happy with that.
Yeah, you know, like being, you know, like autism is a spectrum. So, you know, the autistic traits for each individual is going to be totally different. And, you know, I think your travel experience is going to change based on those traits and, you know, like the strategies you need to apply to, you know, like have a great trip and avoid, you know, like minimize any stressors or anxieties.
Yeah, I think Autism Adventures Abroad as a blog is an excellent research, and it has more than one little piece of information that is often the key for not just the autistic traveller themselves, but the people travelling with autistic people. Little reminders of things that they already know sometimes, little reinforcements of some of our frequent difficulties as autistic people with the experience of travel. But it also opens the world to travel, and that's a lovely thing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, travel, I guess, has been like a passion of mine for a while now. It's very liberating, and you know, I'm happy to have made the website and been able to go on so many travel adventures up to this point.
Well, I'll point everyone right now towards your blog, Autism Adventures Abroad, with Alex Stratikis, and we will be returning with Alex for another program in his series, and again he will be making audio with us, and we will be putting it out and making it as widely known as possible. Thank you, Alex, for joining us today. We'll be speaking to you soon. Cheers, fella.